Hello, my beautiful crafty friends. Welcome to day 2 of the 12 Days of Christmas Ornaments. Today we are going to be working with polymer clay and silk screens. Really easy technique and so pretty. So if you'd like to see how I made all of these beautiful pieces, stay tuned. I'll show you how. So I've already got some red clay rolled out, and then I've got a very rough Skinner blend that, well, it's not a Skinner blend yet, but it will be. So I've got 4 like shades of teal. I've kind of cut them into very loosely shaped triangles and squished them together. And we're going to run it through the pasta machine with all 4 colors touching the roller. And we'll start out on a setting 1, which is what this is, and then we're going to fold it in half, meeting all the colors. We're going to put the folded side against the rollers, and we're going to do that probably about 15 to 20 times until the colors start to blend a little bit and make a bit of an ombre kind of look. Okay, so once you feel like your blend is doing all right, then we want to kind of squish the colors together a little bit. So I'm going to fold it in half and then cut it in half and stack it. And now I'm going to kind of squish these all in together a little bit. So just smush it in. We just want them closer together. Okay, give it a little bit of a roll. And now we'll run it through the pasta machine again with all of the colors touching the roller. Okay, fabulous. Now I've got some cutters that I'm going to be using here. I've got a few different kind of bobble shapes, and I've got some, not really stars, almost like a Moroccan kind of shape, and then just some simple circles. Okay, so I'm going to cut out, I think I want the dark, no, I'm going to do the dark at the bottom. So I'm just going to cut out some shapes here. Okay, once you've got your shapes cut out, do a little lift of them off the tile, and then we'll pull them all off and just kind of smooth out the edges with your finger a little bit. I'm just going to set them aside on a tray for the moment because I'm still going to cut some out of the red as well. But I'm going to show you that you can still use the scraps of this to cut a couple more out. Okay, so with your scraps left over from cutting, don't crumple it all up. I'm going to kind of cut it apart and then put it back together. So still going with kind of the same color scheme, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to slot pieces back into the openings and make another rough blend of what is left. Just squish that clay in where you need it to go. I just don't like to waste anything, so I try to get as much from my scraps as possible. And it doesn't matter if it's a perfect blend anymore. Sometimes it actually looks even cooler when you do it this way and you end up with like a little mottled, marbled kind of effect. So I'm literally just taking all the pieces and putting them back together. Okay, something like that, and now we're just gonna give it a roll. And then we're gonna pick it up and fold it in half and do what we did with the Skinner blend and put it on the folded side. through our pasta machine just a couple times. And there we go. Now we can reuse these scraps to get a couple more pieces out of it. I like to give my pieces just a little wiggle before I pick them up, and it does help to get them out again. Okay, I don't think we can fit one more, but that's fine. So now we have a lot less scrap. So now I'll take this scrap and I will use it for something else. Now I'll just cut a few pieces out of the red and then I'll show you what we do to move forward. Okay, so I've got a whole tray of shapes cut out and now we are going to silk screen them. Okay, so I've got a couple of my pieces here and I've got a snowflake stencil. See if I can put some white behind it so you can see it better. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with the traditional way of doing it, which is with acrylic paint. Most people seem to use acrylic paint, but I'm gonna show you two ways. So I'm just going to put a little bit of white paint on each of these. Okay, so most people will use the method where you're using a dragging it along with a credit card or something of that nature. Make sure it's all covered. Okay, but my preferred method is to use my finger. So I'm going to go in on this one with my finger. I just feel like I have a lot more control that way. And granted, most people will do the silk screening on a full sheet of clay and then cut it out. But I just have to be different. Now this is a little bit too much paint here. So I'm just going to scrape some off onto my scraper here. Okay, and I've got a dish of water to the side, so we'll lift this up. And I mean, they both turned out great. I just prefer using my finger for some reason. But as you can see, they've both, well, this one's got a little bit of a line, but you know what, I'm okay with that. Okay, so immediately wash your silk screen. You don't want any of the paint to dry in there or it will wreck your silk screen. Okay, so I'm just going to put that off to the side to dry, and I'll get these out of the way. Did you know that you could also use Pearl-Ex powders, mica powders, even pan pastels on your silk screens? So I'm just going to make sure that's really in there. I'm going to take some antique silver in the Pearl-Ex. I'm going to take just a little bit out. This stuff is very pigmented, so you don't need very much, especially for such a small piece like this. So I'm just putting a little bit on there. And I'm going to rub that in with my finger. And you could even use a Q-tip and go in with different colors in different sections. And then lift that up. Now, I know it's probably going to be a little bit hard to see, but it actually did a really good impression. It's just the silver might not be the color to go. I should have gone with a little bit darker of a color, but we're going to work with that. I'll do a darker color on this one. And again, clean your stencil right away, or your silk screen right away. Okay, on this one I'm going to go in with a little mountain scene. And I'm going to use maybe a black mica. Okay, so I've got some black pearl mica from Naked Fusion, so I'm going to use that on here. And I'll lift that up and I'm just going to tap the rest of that extra back into the bag. And you could even do the base. You could do a little bit more mica powder on the base if you so desire. But it's just such a nice, clean impression that it gives. You see that? I'm going to add some little white stars to this later. Okay, I'm going to use that same mountain stencil, but I'm going to go in with some black paint this time. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a mountain and moon scene and just put a tiny bit, just one drop of black paint. Don't need very much. Well, even that's too much. And then again, I'm going to use my finger because I like it best. And because I have so much black paint on there, I'm going to lift this up. Oh, I love that. And quickly move to a different piece and do it again. Lift that up. If you've got anything on your piece that you don't like this tree just looks out of place because it's barely there, so I'm just going to take it off. So just use a baby wipe and you can remove any bits that you're not super happy with. I think I'm actually going to use a paintbrush and I'm going to take off a little bit of the paint that's still on this silk screen and paint a little kind of horizon line here. Okay, and then clean my stencil. Okay, I'm going to use this tiny little cutter to punch a hole in each of these. Okay, and now I've got all my pieces done, and I'm going to bake these up, and then I will come back and finish them up. Okay, so my pieces are out of the oven. I've got them on some parchment paper here, and the last step is to just coat them in some varnish. I personally like the Bright Tone Clear Gloss. That's my preferred kind. So I'm literally just using a paintbrush and giving a thin coat all over just to seal in that paint. And you want to do about 3 or 4 very thin coats. It's better to go with multiple thin coats than it is one thick coat. That doesn't really work as well. The more coats you do, the more it will kind of almost look like resin. It will give like a very shiny effect. The varnish dries in about an hour, but you want to wait 3 to 4 hours between coats. I'll come back to these multiple times throughout the day and give them another coat. And then it's just a matter of adding a ribbon and you're done. So very, very easy ornament. I want all of these ornaments in the 12 days of ornament making to be simple and easy to do. I want to sell these at markets, so I'm making a lot of them, and I'd like to be able to sell them fairly inexpensively. So, you know, even because there's often a lot of kids that come to markets and they're like, do you have anything for $5? And I always think that's really cute when, you know, they have their small amount of money and they want to get something for their mom or something. And I like to have things that even kids can afford to buy. So I like having a lot of little things at Christmas markets. So there we go. That is day 2 of our 12 Days of Christmas Ornaments silk screen on clay. Easy peasy, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 3.